Hello and welcome back from spring break. Today is March 29th or March 30th. We're going to go to week one, day one. Make sure that you take attendance. Students will apply formulas for volume of a cone and pyramid. Students will solve real-world problems involving volume. Those are today's objectives. This video will be placed right here in this box here. Here's today's assignment. It explains how to log in to today's assignment. Before we get to today's assignment, we're going to go over a brief PowerPoint. So again, this is today's assignment. So it's going to be, this is 8th grade iLearn for 2020. It's a review. Do the best that you can. We're going to take a look. So again, today's goal was that you'll be able to apply formulas for volumes of a cone and pyramid, and then solve some real-world problems involving those volumes. So imagine if you owned a snow cone truck. Which style of snow cone would you sell, and why? Now, if you're at home, you maybe don't have a partner to discuss, but just think about which one of these two would you sell and why? So what is volume? Volume is the amount of space inside of a 3D shape. Think about how much water the object would hold if you filled it up. So it's the things inside of it. So like if you fill a cup up with water, the water is the volume. A cone has a formula of volume equals 1/3 the times pi times radius squared times the height. And a pyramid is 1/3 times the area of the base shape times its height. Now, radius is halfway across the circle from the center. The height of the cone is the distance from the circle to the tip of to the point of the cone. The area of the base of a pyramid is the shape at the bottom that the pyramid is sitting on. Sometimes it's a triangle, sometimes it's a rectangle, sometimes it's a square. So you have to know the area formulas for a triangle, rectangle, and square. And then the height is the height from the base shape that it's sitting on all the way to the point of the pyramid. So if we look at this cone, the radius is this here. Now, so if we remember, it said volume equals 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height of the cone. So here's what I know right now. 6 foot is the radius. 15 would be the height. And so to figure out this problem, I just plug those into this formula. So I would do the volume is going to equal 1/3 times pi times the radius squared. But I already know what the radius is, so let's use the number there. It's 6 times the height, which is 15. Now this seems like a lot, but we're going to use a calculator to solve this. So Desmo Scientific Calculator makes this a lot easier. So what you're going to do is you're going to type in 1/3 and then times pi. So we got the pi button here. And then we have 6 squared. So we hit times 6 squared. And then we have times 15. This tells us that the volume of this is Oh, our calculator disappeared. This tells you that our volume is 565.48. Now, most of the time it's going to ask you to round to the nearest hundred. So the 6 is going to tell you to change this 8 to a 9. So we would put 565. So our volume, after we enter it in, would be 565.49. And that's assuming that we entered in our formula as volume equals 1/3 times pi times 6 squared times the height of 15. Now, some answer, we would obviously, and it's cubed because volume's cubed. So feet cubed. Now, sometimes when you have pi in your problem, they don't want you to solve it out because they want to leave it. So what you would do instead is you would do everything except for pi. So we would enter in 1/3 times 6 squared times 15. And we want to multiply by pi, but I'll show you what I mean here in just a second. So you would enter in your calculator 1/3 times 6 squared times 15, and then your answer would just stay 180. And then you would just put the pi symbol next to your answer so that this is an acceptable answer and this is an acceptable answer. Now, when we look at this next problem, you've got a cone right here and you've got a cylinder. Now, cones and cylinders are similar. So the volume for a cone is 1/3 times pi times the radius, in this case 4 all the way across, so halfway would be 2. Even up here, halfway would be 2. Times 2 squared times the height, which would be 3. So right now I've done radius 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. So I would bring back over my calculator and I can look and see, oh, they're going to want the answer in pi. So instead of doing all the way through, I'm going to do just up until the pi part. So 1/3 times 2 squared times 3. which gives me 4 pi. So this is equal to 4 pi. And when I say this, I mean just the cone part. Just the cone is 4 pi. For a cylinder, it's a similar formula. It's going to be the volume is going to be pi times the radius squared times the height, which is here. So that's the volume for a cylinder. So I would plug that in. I also don't want to use pi again. So I want to use volume times pi. We're going to start with that. The radius is still 2. The height is from here to here. So if this is all 10 and this is 3, this part would have to be 7 times the height of 7. And so we would enter that into the calculator. We would do 2 squared times 7, which gives us 28. So this is equal to 28, and then pi comes with it because we didn't use it. And then we do 4 pi plus 28 equals 32 pi, which means that A has to be our answer. Now, this is how to find the volume of a pyramid. If you remember back correctly, it was volume of a pyramid was equal to 1/3 area of the base shape times the height. Well, this is a rectangle, so I know that the area of the base shape is length times width. So I could say that the volume formula for this one is equal to 1/3 times length times width times the height. And that's what it is. So I would do 1/3 times 6 times 7 times 9. I'm going to use a calculator to do so. We would do 1/3 times 6 times 7 times 9. Gives me 126. So this is 126. Don't forget the label. Miles cubed. Volume is always done cubed. Now for this one over here, this is a square, but the formula is still the same. Volume equals 1/3 area of the base times the height. So for this problem, I know that a square has the sides are the same. So I could say volume equals 1/3 S squared times the height, which would be volume is equal to 1/3 times 11 squared times 12. Again, I would just use a calculator to do this. So 1/3 times 11 squared times 12, which gives me 484. So this volume is going to be equal to 484. Don't forget the label, centimeters cubed. Now, feel free to go ahead and take a break here if you'd like. If not, keep going. So we're going to determine which one of the volumes is greater on this. All we're going to do is solve. So volume for this is equal to 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height. The volume for this is 1/3 times the side squared times the height. So the first thing we're going to start with is this one here. We're going to enter in our calculator. We're looking for 1/3 times pi times 5 squared times 10. Or round to the nearest 100 just so that we have something to stop at. And so I'm going to use the calculator again. I would just simply type in 1/3 times pi times 5 squared times 10. And I would see that this is 261.799. This second 9 changes this to 261.80. So 261.80 centimeters cubed. Now we're going to switch over and find the volume of which would be 1/3 times 5 squared times the height of 10. Again, we're going to use the calculator. 1/3 times 5 squared times 10. And we come out to be 83.333. So we're going to leave it at 8333. So we're going to leave this as 83.33 centimeters cubed. We can clearly see that 261 is bigger than 83. So we know that this cone is larger than this pyramid. You can take a break, go ahead and play tic-tac-toe or something, pause the video here, and when you're ready to come back, we can pick up where we left off at. So I want you to take the time, see if you can figure out what the volume of this pyramid is, and then see if you can figure out what the volume of this cone is. Go ahead and pause the video here. So the volume of the pyramid is 160 inches cubed. If you didn't get it right, go back and see if you can figure out what you did wrong. The volume of the cone is either 48 pi, if you left your answer to where you didn't put pi in there, or 150.80, and then they both should end in feet cubed. Again, if you didn't get this right, take the time, go back and see if you can figure out how you got it wrong. Now, for this one, it says find the volume of each of the following. A square pyramid measuring 10 yards on each side with a base of the base with a height of 6 yards. Listen, I don't know about you, but it's easier for me to draw these out. So what I would do is draw a square and then put a dot above it, and you're going to draw each one of the lines to it. Now, don't get me wrong, I'm not an artist, so this isn't going to be perfect. So here's what we know is that the height from here to the base is 6, and each one of the sides is 10. That means that I can do the formula volume equals 1/3 the side, which is 10, squared, times the height. So my volume for this, and it's yards, if I go back to the calculator, is simply going to be 1/3 times 10 squared times 6, which gives me 200 yards cubed. So this is going to be 200 yards cubed. Now the same thing is going to happen for the cone. It has a radius of 4, so what I would do is draw a circle. The radius is 4. Put a dot above the cone. Draw like a triangle. And the height from here to the bottom is 12. Again, I'm not an artist, but I like to see my math. So we know that we can do the volume is equal to 1/3 times pi times the radius squared times the height, which means that we would do volume is equal to 1/3 times pi times 4 squared times 12. You could do this with or without pi. If you were to do it without pi, you would get 1/3 times 4 squared times 12, which would give you 64 pi. So that would give you 64 pi for what we just entered in. and then, so the volume, and then we would just take that and multiply it by pi. Sorry, the calculator keeps hiding behind the screen here. So we would take 64 pi, we would multiply that by pi, and that would give us 201.061. So we'd leave it as 201.06. So you either would, for this one, when you would have gotten 64 pi or 201.06, and they both should be meters cubed. How comfortable are you using the volume formulas discussed with a partner? Now, here's the thing is you're always going to be, you can always Google the volume formulas and stuff, but you're going to want to start to memorize them because otherwise you're just constantly having to look something up. So if you're comfortable, great. We're going to move on to our assignment, which is going to be Edulastic Lesson 1. And if you were this video, after you finish this video, click on this link below here. You're going to sign in with Google. You're going to choose your account. And you'll see that there's going to be 3 lessons that are going to come up, but there's only one you can do right now. It's called Lesson 1, Volume of Pyramids and Cones. You're going to start the assignment. It looks like this. You're going to go through, figure out the answer to this. Then you're going to go on to the next question. You're going to figure out the answer to each parts of these and stuff. Take your time and do the best you can. There's only 10 questions.